Are live. Hi, Sarah.
Welcome. So welcome to everyone listening. Really good opportunity for Steff and I to continue sharing our experience, both as competitors, but Steff being a coach as well. Today's topic is going to be a really nice, juicy one. So we're going to talk about how to prepare for a contest prep. So really good for first timers. So if you've never competed before, there's so much that we can share with you that will help you go into this prep a lot more objectively, and with hopefully learning a bit more about the mistakes that we've made, and lots of different experiences there, doing several preps ourselves. And then I'm sure athletes listening that have competed before will enjoy our ramblings.
We always have a good ramble. So.
Yeah. And all the golden nuggets we like to share. But yeah, I mean, in the videos we've done so far, it's just been really cool when we listen back and it's like, Christ, we've experienced a lot, but you sort of forget, don't you, when you're doing it?
Yeah, you absolutely do. And I always think, oh, I don't have much to say. And then suddenly when you start to speak, you realize how many different scenarios you've come up against and how much you've got to share from both sort of a personal experience and I suppose from an educational experience as well. So yeah. This one's going to be fun to delve into today.
Yeah, I mean, should we start with maybe talking about our first preps?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, yeah, what a when I look back, I just think, because you become so immersed in each prep, and like we've spoken about in our previous videos, you become so tunnel vision. Like after the show, it's almost like you look and you think, Christ, that was like 6 months. Where's it gone? And then how long have you been competing for?
So I started in 2012 and we're
7 years. 10
years.
Nearly 10 years.
Yeah. 10 years now. So.
Like, I think it's coming up 7 years. So it's crazy when you think back to that first one and also the motivations when you first become a bodybuilder.
Yeah. It's funny actually because, and you might feel the same, but when I think back to Steff 2012 doing her first prep to Steff here today in 2021, and I've kind of come through all of the different various ranks of the of the whole industry, if you like. They're just so separate. They're two separate, completely different people. And it's amazing how much you learn about yourself through the years doing it.
Yeah. And you said before on previous videos you got into it because you did dancing, didn't you? And then you needed to channel that energies into.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, my background was in dance, professional dance, and health and fitness, and just going to the gym was just such a massive, avid part of what I really enjoyed. And I think I came away from sort of professional dance, but still needed that outlet to push my body and really think about where I could take it. And it was a blend of that and being in a gym environment that was more bodybuilding focused that drew my attention to it. So the gym I was in was a real kind of, at that stage in my fitness, was a bit of a rough and ready, just gnarly bodybuilding gym. That's all I can kind of yeah. And there were loads of guys around me training. There was the photographs on the wall, of course, of all the different competitors. And there was quite a few on the wall of around that time, but the one that drew my attention the most was Louise Rogers, who's now Louise Cayenne. But Louise Rogers at that time was the first IFBB girl from the UK to become a pro in figure.
Oh, awesome.
And the first girl to win the British Championships as a figure competitor. So for me, she was like on the wall, and I just thought, I want to look like that. I was muscular anyway and athletic from my dance, and I wanted to channel that into creating that X-frame shape. And that's how it all started for me, just that want and inspiration by other people.
And even that, touching on, I remember when I first started out, and Stephen was like, what are your motivations, and what have you, and being my coach, you wanted to understand obviously why I was doing it.
Yeah.
And I remember I screenshotted like loads of different girls that I found on Instagram, and big shoulder, you know, like really nice shoulders, really good, you know, that frame for bikini.
Absolutely.
And you don't realize, you know, when I sent him the photos and I said I want to look like this, he was like, okay, so first of all, we need to realize that you are your own body. And second of all, you don't know what their training history is, you know, if there's been use of steroids, different things like that that you don't even think about when you first start out.
No idea. You just point and go, I like that, I want to do that.
Yeah. And what you just said there is the exact way to look at it. I want to look like that. I'm going to channel my energies looking towards that as an inspiration rather than I want to be that.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's definitely like a massive thing for preparing for a prep.
Yeah.
Is that, especially if it's your first time, you need to facilitate your own learning, that actually you don't know what you're going to look like till you get stage lean.
Absolutely. I think as well, when you first contemplate considering to go into prep, this is a first timer for most first timers, of course. Preparing for your first bodybuilding competition is a huge decision to make. It's a really big one, and making that decision, I think, you know, you've got to prepare your mindset, and this is obviously where, if you've got people around you who can explain the process, you'll have more of this to begin with. But there's going to be things like expectations on your mind and your body of what you're about to go into, because looking at a picture and going, oh, I'm so excited about that, I want to do that, and then actually the practical implementation of that are two very different things. And I think you've probably been there as well, Sarah, where in your very first prep you go into it, it's totally like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, I'm going to do this, I know what I'm doing, I've got a plan, and nothing else matters. That's all you're doing. But I think, you know, the expectations of, and being ready to do, you know, diet for a long time, dedicate yourself to making kind of every workout count like it's their last, you know, and then realizing other things around that, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, I think as well, you know, my first phone call with Stephen, I was very much of that, like you say there, where I remember one of the conversations we had was, I said to him, well, you know I can dedicate myself to this. I know I'm 100% in. I haven't eaten chocolate for 6 weeks. I know I do not need that type of food in my life. I'm ready. And he was like, what? And I was like, well, you know, I've proved to myself that I can track my food. I can go on a meal plan. I don't need any of that sort of food. And I was already like in this intense place because I thought that, you know, I definitely felt I needed to earn the right to be a bodybuilder, and even compete in the first place. So it's that mindset, working with a coach and having people that can actually veer you in the right direction is massive.
Huge. Yeah, huge. And I think, you know, in my first year, I didn't have a formal coach. I mean, I was pretty headstrong at that point as well, I think, with my own physical endeavors, which I suppose is you know, not everybody's like me coming into it, but I had my initial goal before I decided I wanted to compete, but I had a goal before that to kind of get myself prepared for it. And that was, I was going to see my best mate who lived in Brazil at the time, and I was going on a holiday to Rio, and I'd never been. And I was like, I'm not getting on that beach with all those Brazilian beauties, like looking tan, fit, amazing. And I used that goal to get myself like beach ready, if you like, but at the same time I used it as a body fat percentage goal. So I'd done my own research. I was obviously training my own qualifications at the time as a fitness instructor and PT, etc. But I was going into that thinking, right, I want to get to sub 10% and see what I look like. And that was kind of my initial goal. And
that's a bloody goal in itself, isn't it?
Well, it was. And if anything, you know, that was a pretty severe thing to do, but I put myself through those many kind of challenges before. So for me, it wasn't, but to the average person, it might be. But it's something, you know, one of the things I often say to my clients, maybe who aren't quite ready to go to the contest prep, but want to have that feeling of pushing themselves to a more intense goal, is let's do a small, intense preparation for something, whether it's a photo shoot, whether it's something else, just to give you that vibe without then putting the added pressure of getting you up on a stage yet. Does that make sense? So it's just a bit of a preparation point if you're not sure.
Because I've said to people before, and I've probably mentioned it in our previous videos, where sometimes it's quite a good idea for people to potentially go into a diet or a prep.
Yeah, like a cut or something like that.
Yeah. And book like a photo shoot.
Totally.
And then if there was a show maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, or even the weekend after, and you did the shoot and you actually thought, I'm looking pretty good here, you could then go into a show, you know, you'd probably already have things like the shoes, which you do your progress photos in, and different bits and bobs. And potentially, you know, if you were going to get a bikini, you can get those fitted and then, you know, changed if you need to, if you were going to use it on a different season, or, you know, there's lots of different avenues you can take it. But if you set yourself the goal of competing and then you get closer and then it's not going to happen,
then it's not like the all and end all, is it?
Yeah. And you're almost setting yourself up for that really difficult, you know, if you tell people you're going to do a show and you're dead set on that, and for some reason you then don't do it, if you've told people you're going to do it, you know, that's really difficult conversations to have. But it's hard, isn't it? Because for me personally, I needed to do a show to know if I wanted to continue.
Yeah, exactly. I think yeah, I mean, there's so much there. I think the preparation for doing it has to come with that kind of desired motivation. Like if you have, say you've not got a coach, my first thing would be to say is evaluate your physique and be really honest with yourself. And you know, a lot of people come into bodybuilding thinking, oh, this will only be 16 weeks, it'll be fine, or it'll be 10 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever. Now for some people it will, depending on obviously where they're
at. If you're very, very lucky.
If you're very lucky, but the reality of this is coming into it, you know, you need to know how long you need to be ready, and that's of course where having a coach is really, really helpful. But also you need to kind of know, well, what type of metabolism do I have? Am I coming from a mesomorphic or an endomorphic body or an ectomorphic body, and I need to do X, Y, Z? There's so much involved in that. And I think now with the fact that we've got so much more information, it can be two things. It can be overwhelming because there's too much information. You can get really confused as to what to do. But then it can also be really helpful because there's a lot more now than there ever was when I started to actually put the bones of a prep together if you're looking to do that prior to getting a coach. In the dawn and the age of the coaches now, though, and getting on board with somebody straight off the bat is going to save you so much time, so many mistakes, and they're going to help channel your body and your physique into the right place for you to get the best results and the most progress. So
and like we've touched on before, when looking at getting a coach, I'd always recommend some of the top things to think about is having a look at their clients that they work with at the moment and how they build programs, how they build, if it's a food plan, if it's flexible dieting, what's going to suit you under that umbrella, what budget do you have for a coach, for a food plan, for, you know, the training aids that you might need. And there's so many things that you need to put into getting a coach. And, you know, in essence, it's trying to get someone that you can almost see yourself gelling with.
Yeah, you've got to be on the same level as, like I say the same level, but you've got to have that.
And it's almost,
you've got to have that. And it's so important. If there's something not quite right with that chemistry between you and your coach, it's not going to work. It just doesn't work.
And if you know, if there's things like contracts that you need to sign and what have you, because as we know, working as professionals in the field as well, it's, you know, you have to sign a PARQ and all those normal stuff that you have to do first. And, you know, if there's a contract that says you can do a month and then you can pull out, then it might be that you say, right, can I pay for a month and try it? You know, there's nothing wrong with doing that. You shouldn't feel almost like you have to stay with someone if you don't quite work well with them for whatever reason.
Totally. And I think have that if your coach is it's upfront with you from the get-go. Like, it's something I say on the first consultation call with somebody. I'll say, the reason I'm here doing this is so you can get to know me and I can get to know you. And off the bat, we need to get on. Like, we need to vibe. We need to have, you need to have the respect to engage and, you know, invest in me. And I also have to have an open mind and encouragement and want to see, you know, a really good channel of energy so that I know I can get you to where you want to be. So there's like it's a real two-pronged thing there. And I think that when we're talking about how to prepare for your contest prep, whether it's first or whether it's somebody who's coming into contest prep having done this for a few years, that is a huge thing. That coach there could be your coach for the next 3-5 years if you want them to be. And we can speak about, you know, coaches and how long you should be with a coach and everything else on a different topic, because that's a whole different thing in itself. But if you find somebody really good and they're getting somewhere, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's a relationship for life you might have right there. And
because, like you say, in itself, that is like a massive topic, isn't it?
Yes. So many
people that jump from coach to coach, and for me, like you say, if it's not broken, then don't fix it. I can't, you know, unless Stephen comes away from it, or, you know, there's some sort of real good reason. We've both almost said that we're committed to each other, and here, see me out till, you know.
Yeah, because you guys you've got the results together, you're working together, you gel well together, you obviously have a very strong respect and have built the relationship to obviously push forward in both directions as a coach and client. So it makes total sense to me. I think it's sad when I see what we kind of call in the industry coach hopping. Because I see the same person going maybe from person to person to person, and I think, you know, what magic do you think somebody else is going to do? It's down to that person and the hard work you have to do, and you have to build that trust and relationship with somebody to help get you there. You can't just like go into maybe something for a week and then not see results and then disappear and change. It's
it's difficult, isn't it? It's touchy as well. And I've always said to people, if you're looking at getting a coach and you then get one and it doesn't work out, and then another, and maybe, you know, it's hard, but do you need to look at what your expectations are of a coach?
Exactly. Yeah, very
is
important.
it that you're maybe thinking that they should do X, Y, and Z, but actually, you know, a really good quality of a coach is that they're trying to bring out the best in you through your own realization. So you're asking leading questions rather than saying you should do this, this, and this. That's it. Which sometimes you do need to do, especially in a prep. You know, it gets to the point where the athlete might be a little bit and you've got to say, just do this, this, and this, and you'll be fine. But, you know, while you're building the relationship and the respect, if the coach is facilitating, you know, you talk, and you ask questions. Sometimes I say a question and then Stephen doesn't say anything. And then I go, I already know the answer to that. And then I answer it, because he's there facilitating me for my own progression in realizing what I can do, you know, as an athlete, as a person. And that's what a coach should do. But I don't think sometimes people maybe realize that, and bodybuilding's got that real like stigma around it, where it's like, go hard or go home.
Yeah, it does. And I think it has that stigma. And I think the other edge of the coin is a lot of people will go with kind of the trend or the popular choice of coach, if you like. That's not always, well, actually, more times I see that not working, because there's a lot of people that need more specified support than they realize they may get. I'm not categorizing, you know, like I'm not putting everybody in the same boat here, but do your digging, like go and speak to people, ask for different coaches consults, talk to more than one, and really, like you say, set your expectations clearly of what you need and want for. Because if you're going to spend, and if you look at the kind of the pool of different coaching in our industry and the sort of the financial price point, what value are you getting for that? Because of course finances play a factor in a lot of people's planning. but there might be 10 coaches all on the same price point, but one might give you this, one might give you that. So do you,
your preference?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I definitely say that that's probably both of our first, even coming from a competitor and you as a coach as well, obviously, but that's our first big almost lesson that we've learned, is that I personally feel that I wouldn't want to do a prep without a coach, even now.
Yeah, me too. Mm-hmm.
You know, or you can work with Andrew as well, and you've got that input.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, working together as coaches, and I've got Stephen. No matter what happens, every time I go into a prep, I always think I feel so much better on this one. And the one I did last year,
yeah,
I got to about 4 weeks out and I thought, holy shit, this is where your mind just turns into this warped reality. Like, you know, sometimes you ask what you feel is really stupid questions from your coach, but actually, you know, it's stuff that's on your mind, and you need to be able to, you know, it's a big point of having a coach, is be able to talk about anything. You know, as you can appreciate, when you get close to a show, things like your period stopping, not being able to go to the toilet, like if you've never had that before, you're thinking, why haven't I been to the toilet for 5 days? And it, you know, in essence, it's when you look into your body's going through a lot and what have you. If you don't know that, and your coach doesn't talk to you about that, and you don't want to ask them that, that's going to play on your mind.
Yeah, it will. And unfortunately, those sorts of things leave negative habits and behaviors, and will, a lot of the time, if you've done a prep with a coach and you've come away from it and it's been sort of maybe subpar or lackluster, or maybe you haven't felt like that you've been able to approach them, it will leave a bitter taste in your mouth, and you will pick up, you'll just have a more negative experience when it could have been avoided by just, well, acting when you feel like something isn't quite right early on. And
and finding someone that you can be open with.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, in my eyes, it's a definite. If you're going to go into a prep, get yourself a coach. And that leads on to a posing coach also.
It does, yeah. I mean, I was thinking here, what other things could we talk about in relation to how to prepare for your bodybuilding contest? And I think one of the areas is common mistakes that first timers maybe do, or even I think some people even who are experiencing this forget this. But of course, one of the most common things is the posing element, and
insane.
so many people at the start of their journey have no clue that this is like really important, and suddenly, you're 4 weeks out and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm about to stand on stage, I've got to do that posing stuff as well. And then the practicing the posing until you have it down, it's really challenging. You've got to have that as a set point for your contest prep from the start, so that you can really make sure that those 5-10 minutes, and that's being generous, on stage are absolutely going to serve all that hard work you've done well. Yeah.
And I've got so many, as you know, tangents and stories with posing in itself. And a bit like you said there, when I first got into bodybuilding, I went to a show and watched it, and a friend there said, you could go on that stage next year. And I was like, I'm looking at these physiques thinking, there is no way I could ever look anything like that. Then the seed was sown and it happened. But at first I looked at all these different ladies and men and everything else, and I thought, okay, so I need to sort my nutrition out and train. Posing wasn't even, I just thought it was like a normal thing. Yeah, I've just thought you'd do some poses and it'd be fine. And then when I went into the realms of posing and I traveled to various different posing camps and all this sort of stuff, it blows your mind. You need to pay for it, you need to travel there, you need to commit to it, you need to do posing practice, and there's lots of different bits that go into posing in itself. And I definitely underestimated it massively. And like we said before, like I used to look on YouTube and type in whatever posing on there, and it would come up, and it's a blurry screen, and you'd sort of see people doing bits, then you'd be at home with it on the screen and you'd be trying to do it
opposite way around.
and you cannot emulate working with a coach one-to-one that looks at your physique, that works with you. You know, even the different federations, there's different poses, there's different shoes. It's a real you know, a big...
that is I would say the number one common mistake of any first timer or anyone coming into contest prep and forgetting it, or not even realizing about it, like you said. So I mean, 100%. And there is, so again, it comes back to, there's so much out there in terms of videos, things to watch, etc. From doing it, from working one-to-one for years with people in the posing studio, every physique learns differently on how to move, how to pose for their strengths, how to hide their weaknesses, how to understand their confidence levels, how to bring that out. You can't get that from a 20-minute video that's a bit, you know, haphazard, or even some of the more professional videos on YouTube of posing. Whilst they all look glamorous, half the time I've got people coming in and saying, oh, I've learned this from a YouTube video, and it will be posing, yes, of some kind, but will not be relevant to their actual federation or class or whatever they're doing. So it is vital.
I mean, I guess if we were looking at it for a couple of examples, so if it's a first timer, I would 100% recommend getting lessons.
Yeah, I agree. Get in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can, a one-to-one session is ideal.
Yes.
There's obviously loads of different I've been to them with different federations. They do like posing camps, which I mentioned. Yeah, so that's a great opportunity to go and meet other athletes for a start, because you, oh my god, these people are competing as well, because like you say, you're like that bushy, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person.
You're like, yes.
People of my kind. These people understand me. And meeting some of the judges, potentially you can, you know, you can ask questions about criteria, and going to those would definitely be a massive string to your bow as well. But even for people that have already competed, I will still go to those if I can. It doesn't matter, you know, whether I'm my pro status now or whether I was going into a different federation as an amateur again. I would always use that as a massive opportunity, because you cannot beat getting that hands-on time with judges, with coaches, with, you know, whatever it is. And as you make your way through, you know, your bodybuilding journey and you compete several times, when you go to these camps, you're going to meet, you know, a variety of different people. And sometimes, you know, you might get a coach that you've only just met on that day, and they say, well, why don't you try this? And actually, you know, you don't really want to, but you can sort of take it on board on the day. And then if you've got a posing coach like I've got you, you can then go back to what you do with them, but just immerse yourself in the posing camp, as it were.
Absolutely. And don't, what I would say on that as well is, don't be nervous. I remember the very first like workshop I went to, the posing workshop, and I have to admit, I didn't actually have a great experience at it. It was a really cliquey vibe, and I found it extremely like non-welcoming. It wasn't really like a workshop. It was more of a like test or something to see, you know, if you could do it,
if you can fit
kind of thing. And I that was my very, very first experience of it. I think coming from a performing arts and a dance background anyway, I was expecting something really different to maybe what it was. That was probably my expectations were not quite met, if that makes sense. But
yeah.
I think the one thing I took away from that very early on was that, and I get this now, but bodybuilding is quite a solo endeavor, and people will be quite solo in their mindset depending on where they are in their game. First timers not so much, but people maybe further down the line. And just don't, I think what I'm trying to say is, go into things with an open mind and don't let things affect you. Just take it all in, observe what's, you know, who's doing what, and make the connections with the people who you're vibing with, and don't worry about the rest, if you know what I mean. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because and also there's lots of different, I guess, bad habits and patterns that you can pick up from these environments. And like you say there, I almost felt like when I went to several different posing classes and camps and what have you, that I had this pressure that, you know, everyone was eating out of Tupperwares in between, and then those people would go off and they'd talk about that federation, and those people would talk about that federation, and unless your federation was one of the ones that was current at the time, you're thinking, oh, whereas if you go to one that's led by the federation you're putting your heart and soul into at that time, it maybe you can relate a bit more. But there's, you know what it's like, bodybuilding breeds so many different personalities, I guess, but it also breeds this, like you say, solo mentality of, it's almost like if you looked at some of us, we'd be autistic almost, you know, in the way we see everything has to be how we like it.
Yes, totally.
And that lends itself well to a prep at a lot of times, you know, that need to get everything, you know, tick the boxes, as it were. But it's trying not to let other people's behavior, when they behave like that,
affect you.
Negative. I
think as well, though, if I think back from where I started to where we are now, there's so much more, and it's so much more in the social media side of things, in the bodybuilding industry, in the fitness industry. Doing these things are much more accepted and much more common and mainstream. Whereas when I first did them, they weren't. They were really still like, oh my God, you're going to a posing workshop and you're taking your kit off and you're standing there doing this. You know what I mean? It's all a bit like that. So it's come on leaps and bounds. But I think, absolutely. Throw yourself in the mix, get involved with people, get a posing coach, work on the things you might not think are necessary at the start. And that will go.
And also posing frequency at home and how you do that. I personally, so in my off season, I do my check-in photos every 2 weeks. And then I do bits of flexing and what have you in between sets in the gym sometimes, or after a workout when I'm pumped up. When I go into prep, I pose every day.
It should be.
That works for me. I know that some people don't do it like that, and you know, it's open to you as an individual, but I find if I'm going into prep, I want to build up confidence, stamina, and I want to feel comfortable and flowing in those poses.
You need that posing fitness, and that comes from, it's like muscle memory. Posing has memory. The isolations, the holds, the static positions, the flowing. You teach your body those movements, and you have to practice them like you would practice growing a muscle. You know, you have to do the same thing with the posing. It's vital. So, I mean, you say I do it daily. I get all of my clients, you know, particularly in kind of mid to latter parts of their contest prep, doing this statutory every day or every single day, depending on, you know, what their cardio protocols are looking like. But it's got to be as important as the diet, the training, the cardio, the psychological positivity. It's got to be important. So important.
Because I find that it's a non-negotiable for me. When I start prep, it just happened like that. I know I'm posing for, and what I try and do is I either set 10 minutes or I choose 3 songs, which are about 3.5 minutes each.
And just the round.
Get the vibe, you know, even that in itself, getting a playlist of, you know, for bikini in particular, it's almost like you've got to get that sort of sexy and
that like move into the music, and the more kind of, it's the flow and the energy with your class that's as important as the poses themselves, because there's that whole aesthetic and presentation side of the bikini classes that have to draw in the attention. And so practicing that and doing it with music. And I get my clients to use a stopwatch, and when the beeps go, you know, they'll do 20 seconds of posing, and then when the beep goes, they transition to their next pose, and then they hold it, so that we are practicing with different time sort of stamps, if you like, 20 seconds or 30 seconds or 10 seconds, so that you're practicing with different tempos. So when you're on stage, if the judges are saying quarter turn, quarter turn, quarter turn, and it's super fast, you know what to do. And if they're holding you for ages, then you're all ready for that too. So it's getting the posing fitness.
Because I did when I competed at Rhinos in 2019, we were on stage for about 45 minutes. And I got called forward probably 5 or 6 times, and it was epic. But Christ. You know, when we stepped off, I thought, bloody hell, like your back and everything. Oh, but it was amazing to get that amount of judgment and time on stage. And, you know, after putting everything into a prep, it was so good.
Yeah.
But you need to be, you know, if you place and you get call outs as well, you might need to keep working for 40-45 minutes, and it is hard, really hard.
Massively. And you know, as you progress up the classes, the more and more aggressive the posing needs to become in terms of tensing and hard,
Yeah.
bold and hard poses. And you can tell, and it will cost you points on stage if you haven't practiced your posing.
Yeah. And so I definitely say getting a coach, but also having it in your mind, if you're looking to go into a prep, how would the practice fit into your day? So you got to fit in your food prep, your training in itself, recovery, posing practice. The training is going to include the cardio as well, and that might be training twice a day.
Exactly. Another couple of things I think to note as well from a sort of a preparation point of view is, and things I've noticed when I get, you know, somebody comes to me and says, Steff, I really want to start contest prep. I'm interested in your coaching. The key thing that people need to think about is give yourself enough time.
Yes.
You've got to think, because a lot of the conversations I'll have with first timers will be, let me see your starting point, and they might think they want to compete this year, for example, and I know by looking at them straight off the bat, that's not going to be enough time. That's just not going to be enough time. So another common mistake is not giving yourself long enough to diet and to get ready for a show. So that's a common mistake. I think another thing as well would be, and this is what we've touched upon before, but it's preparing the mindset before you go into a contest prep. And this comes into telling people around you if you want to, but this is not just an average, I'm going to the gym 4 times a week and I'm prioritizing my fitness. This is going to filter into your relationships, it's going to filter into other areas of your life. And I think you need to have all those things ready and prepared before you start, so that you can know it. Yeah.
Because if, you know, it's like I have conversations with PT clients that, you know, looking to, they suddenly get this figure in their mind of, I want to get to X body fat.
Yeah.
And then you probe a bit, as you probably do, if it's, you know, not necessarily competing, but, you know, someone that's trying to lose weight and change their body composition. And it's, where's that number come from?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, I've seen people that are about that sort of body fat and I'd like to look like that. And now it's really nice because I can say, this is exactly what you'd need to do to get to that body fat. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that, actually. Maybe we could go for a little bit. And it's, you know, having been there myself and done several preps and getting to those low body fat levels, it's the things like that we've mentioned before, insomnia, not going to the toilet, not really going out socially, because partly because you don't have the time and the energy, but also mindset wise, you don't really want to. You don't want to expose yourself to social situations that would potentially cause you stress.
Yeah.
You're in your routine, you know, everything is working how it should. And there's all those things that, you know, if you've got a wedding when you're 4 weeks out, when you start your prep, you think, oh, that'd be really nice. I'll be really lean. I can get a nice dress on. But I can tell you, and you probably feel the same, going to a wedding for the whole day, then the reception, then staying overnight or 4 weeks out.
Try a day before your contest.
You've been there.
I actually,
Insane.
I don't even understand how I did it, to be honest.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing when you look back at some things and sometimes I think, blimey, like I wasn't even really there.
I wasn't. I remember it. I remember I was living in Yorkshire and I had to go to a wedding in just outside Edinburgh, and I had to travel all the way up, go to the wedding. But this wasn't like, obviously, if it had been anything else other than it was a very, very close friend of mine, I wouldn't have done this. But do you know, it was a horrible thing, because I experienced a real contradiction whilst I was there of like, oh my God, I'm here with all these normal people and I'm totally self-absorbed in my own space doing my thing. And I can't even celebrate my friend's wedding. It was weird. But obviously I dwelled on that, but I knew what I was doing. They all supported me with that as well, which was fine. But these things will crop up. Like
Yes, yeah,
that happened to me, and that's something that I chose to do
yeah.
for my own goal. And effectively, I did miss out. I didn't stay for the evening, and I didn't stay for the night because I
You
couldn't.
can't.
You can't. You
Yeah.
can't. You just can't do it. You can't do it, and that you've got to accept the negativity that comes with that internally as well as externally, because you might have people around you say like, I can't believe you're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but as preps have gone on, and especially when I got pro status, suddenly people are like, oh, well, she's got a pro card, so it's really serious now. I
Yeah,
think I'm actually doing the same thing that I was doing when I started,
exactly.
but you get the acknowledgement, as it were.
Yeah.
And suddenly people are like, so you've got a pro card? And it's like, that's not
Like, oh,
yes,
you actually take this stuff quite seriously.
yeah, and it's almost like initially that would have been a dagger in the heart, like, well, I've been doing it for years, why haven't you ever taken it seriously before? And it always goes back to this needing to be an internal drive for a start, but also, like you said about things that come up when you go into a prep, it's trying to realize that you've committed to, if you're going to do a contest prep, if things come up and you're still going to participate, then A, hopefully the people around you will understand that, but B, it's trying to take on those tactics where you're not going to feel guilty for following through on something that you really want to commit to. You can go for a meal and not eat a meal and have a drink and everyone else eat. What's the problem with that?
Yeah.
It's not. My hen do. We had a whole day out. When we had lunch, I ate out of Tupperware. When we had dinner, I ate out of Tupperware. Everyone ate and had cocktails and everything else. I didn't have a cocktail because my goal, my bigger picture, was to compete, and that was what was important to me at the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And in essence, those people that will fall away, that don't understand it, are you ready to do that? And can you accept that that's part of becoming an athlete? If you're looking to succeed at this, if you're looking to commit to this for the long haul, there's so many comments, questions, etc., that do come up, but it's almost trying to go into this thinking, if someone questions what I'm eating and what I'm doing, maybe it's because they don't know. It's not because they're being horrible. It doesn't need to be negative.
Exactly.
And that's definitely, from a mindset point of view, going into a contest prep, is try and reach out to other people that maybe prep as well. If you can, go to different posing camps, coaches. Also, if your coach has other team members, potentially build relationships with them, and try and, I guess, prioritize it, but be open-minded as to what's going to come up emotionally and physically, and have people that you can rely on to support that.
Exactly. And just, I guess it's knowing that you are in control of this, so you can actually create your environment around the contest prep to help you succeed at the contest prep. Exactly what you just said, which is talking to people around you, explaining maybe why you're doing what you're doing to somebody who maybe doesn't understand. And yes, you're focusing on yourself. And in some respect, the biggest thing you can do is focus on yourself for a contest prep, because you've got to. But if you care about the people around you and you care about obviously succeeding at your goal, you'll also manage the expectations of things around you to make sure you succeed at your goal. So there's there's lots to it, isn't there? And I think the other thing I think I was just thinking there when you were speaking was the way you mentally approach this is going to be really important. And you're doing this for you. One of the things I always see with my clients is that they focus on like people on social media, or they'll focus on other people, and they'll almost self-doubt themselves a lot of the time, especially my first timers. Have you seen so and so? I don't think I'm going to be good enough. These kinds of things. And I think from my perspective, another thing you can do when preparing for contest prep is write down why you want to challenge yourself, and just have fun with it. There's no expectations on you in your first time going into a show.
Yeah.
You can enjoy the experience, do the best with what you've got. If you know you're ticking your boxes, that's all that matters. And focusing on your journey to it is going to be vital. So try and limit the amount of extra stuff that you're maybe
taking, I guess. Yeah, because that's one of my biggest things, is that going into show day with that intense nature as to putting yourself on this, I need to place, otherwise I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
If that's one thing I could change, it would be that, because it didn't ruin my show days, but I didn't enjoy them.
Yeah.
So why the bloody hell was I spending like 6 months of my life to then have one day that I didn't enjoy? That makes sense, doesn't it? It's like, and also, making sure that the reason you do it they resonate with you as a person, and it's enough to drive you through getting up at 5 a.m. to do cardio, not taking part in social situations, dedicating time to food prep, all of those different things you need to do. There needs to be an internal drive here, otherwise you're going to end up A, hating the process, but B, you almost lash out at people. Well, you don't understand how hard it is. And I always think, I go back to, like, in my mindset, I think, you're choosing to do this. Like, what? No one's making you go into a calorie deficit and train a lot.
Exactly.
This is not, I said to Stephen once when he dropped my calories, you do realize that you're in control of my whole life. Like, if you drop my macros, I'm eating less, and that's all down to you. And he said, well, no, I'm giving you guidance and I'm facilitating your goal. It's not down to me. This is not my choice.
Yeah.
You chose for me to guide you, but this is your choice. And I was like, oh yeah. So you need to realize that, in particular, when you're really close to a show and it's your first time as well, if you're out for a meal and other people are eating burger and chips and you're not, let them eat burger and chips.
Yeah,
That's up to them.
for that.
Don't take that on board that everyone should be eating chicken and broccoli 4 weeks out from a show. So it's always trying to remain, and if you can, like you say, if you write down what your why is, why you're challenging yourself, if you've got that in a notebook somewhere handy that you can always look at, if you get a bit, then you can.
Yeah, I mean, something I say to my guys is, you're there to compete against yourself, and let the judges decide the rest. Nothing else matters. Nothing matters.
And that's literally it. If you can, and next time we do our next video, we're going to talk about an actual prep in itself a bit more. But when you're preparing, if you can set out why you're doing it, what's needed from you, what resources you have, what else you can't strive to be better than what you can,
exactly.
what you can facilitate. So it's always remembering that going into a prep, and this is why a coach is so good.
It really is, and I come back to the same thing, which I think is a good ending point on this one before we go into sort of our next one on what an actual prep is, and how it can go. Is to have fun. Like, so many people forget to enjoy this,
I know
there's so much stuff out there that's like, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, everybody's in the trenches doing this, and I'm just like, guys, like, you can make this as difficult and arduous or as fun and enjoyable as you possibly want. There is nothing more amazing to me than choosing to challenge yourself and do something quite extraordinary that not a lot of people can do. But when you're doing it, you're going, this is making me healthier, it's getting me fitter, it's giving me energy, I can be more productive at work, I can be better in my relationships, and all these other great things that come from it. And you know what? This is so fun, because at the end of it, I'm going to be able to put on an awesome bikini, do myself up, and get up there and just do something
different.
Like, I did that. I managed to do that. That's awesome. And whatever comes from that is a bonus. Yes, of course. But the actual journey there should be enjoyable. And if it's not, you need to take a look at why it's not.
Yes, yeah.
You need to really think about that, because like that bushy-eyed, first timer that we spoke about at the start of this call.
The sweet spot.
but like you go into this going, yes, this is so cool. Like I'm doing something really different. There's my girl.
Yes.
I'm going to look like her. And it's, you know, you're going into it with that buzz and
Yeah.
energy and vibe. And you want to continue that right to that last moment. That's where I kind of always drum home is, are you having fun with this?
Yeah. And it's always trying to, you know, I've come away from some meetups and whatever before and thought I'm way too hyper, like, because I get so excited immersing with other bodybuilders, and like it's just, I just feel at home, like say like Body Power and places like that. I'm like, oh my God, I just love this. Like everyone gets me. I don't have to explain myself. I feel so good. And it's almost holding on to those types of energies, but channeling it appropriately to the scenario. So if people don't want to hear about it, then maybe you don't need to talk endlessly about your prep and what your calories are and your cardio and everything else. If now people ask me questions and they've got a genuine interest, then I can seek, you know, a really nice feeling from that.
Yeah, totally.
So
Exactly.
always try and remain true to why you're doing it. And remember, stay bushy-tailed. So next time we're going to talk about prep in itself, which is going to be probably a little bit deeper in regards to, you know, the mental and physical challenges. And as always, it'd be great if anyone does reach out to us if there's things that people want us to touch on. Would be really cool. And that's sort of why we've decided to say what we're going to discuss next time, so that if anyone's got any questions, we can actually delve into them within the topic itself. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And where can people find you then, Sarah?
So on the gram is my best place, as always. So Sarah Parker Hatchard, and then I'll put this up on my YouTube and we'll share it on our Instagrams as well, as we always do.
Yes, absolutely.
And what's your name on Instagram for those of you that don't know?
At Steff Noble Figure Pro, or you can get me on my coaching page at Pro Prep Coaching. And I'll also pop this up. So I'll look forward to sharing it with you. And I'm looking forward to our next chat as well.
Yeah, the depths of prep. Cool. Awesome to chat as always, Steff.
Absolutely. All right. Speak soon.
Bye.